Today we're going to talk about Broome. Now, I've told today's talk a frontier history of Broome because I'm an historical author. I write lots of books about history, and for much of Broome's history, it has issues of the frontier. You know, in North America, the frontier can be slightly different interpretation than Australia, New Zealand, and so on. But I've looked at Broome's history and I came up with three themes that we defined as a frontier. The first one is law versus lawlessness, these things that conflict against each other, law versus lawlessness. The other one is civilization versus exploitation. And the third theme is expansion versus incursion. And they're things that tend to define frontiers in most countries around the world. And we'll look at those three themes, how they apply to Broome. But a lot of them are still fairly relevant today, even though they look back to history more predominantly. Okay. But we should remember that Broome is also Indigenous country. Here's some of the Indigenous tribes of the area. And Broome is in this, belongs to this group here. The Yawuru people. And across the Kimberley, there are many different tribal groups. Okay, so the first people who cruised around Broome were Nicolas Baudin, the French explorer who went many times around Australia, and Francois Alexandre de Saint-Laurent, who planted a flag in Perth and said, "This is French territory." But they never built civilization or never built any settlements to follow up on that, so it never counted. So they went all around like this, and they went right past Broome and never stopped there. So on the Explorer meter, how do they rate? Navigation, you. Ability to find Broome? Not so good. Next came William Dampier. And popular history will tell you William Dampier visited Broome in 1688. However, busted. He did not come to Broome. He sailed past it as well. So Dampier sailed all the way along here. Broome's tucked in just there. He went round, it's called the Dampier Peninsula. He actually went from Shark Bay, down here, up to Lagrange Bay. So explorometer, navigation, really good. Ability to find Broome? No.
You had to choose an expedition leader. Would you choose an alcoholic loner or a team expedition? What would you think? Consult amongst yourself. You're going to go for a team expedition? That makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, that's not what was chosen. John McDougall Stewart was a Scotsman who'd been rejected by the British Army for being too short and skinny. He was a Glaswegian who migrated when he found his fiancée with another man. He learned his exploring from Charles Sturt, a man so in touch with reality he set off into the desert of Central Australia towing a whaleboat, convinced there'd be a giant inland sea there. And he was confident he was going to be the first man to cross the country. And 45 years old at the time, which again, a little bit long in the tooth for an explorer heading off into the dark deserts in Central Australia. Okay, Team Melbourne, who are you going to choose? An experienced explorer or someone who gets lost walking between two towns? Experienced explorer, good call. Unfortunately, that's not what they chose in real life. So the Victorians set up an exploration committee, and like all committees, they made a committee decision, which is generally not the best decision ever. You know, they say a camel's a horse designed by a committee. Same thing happened here. So Robert O'Hara Burke was an Irishman, came to Australia working as a policeman, completely full of himself. He believed so much in himself that he was going to be the greatest, he was going to achieve something fantastic. And his brother was killed in the Crimean War. He was made a big hero by the family. And he was so irked by that, he immediately jumped on a boat and took off to Crimea to fight in the war, hopefully die there as well. But by the time he got there, the war was over. So very irked, he came back to Australia, he fronted up the exploration committee and talked himself into the job despite having no experience in exploration and despite having a record of getting lost walking between two towns in rural Victoria on a pathway in a road. So there we have our two protagonists, John McDougall Stewart and Robert O'Hara Burke. Back to Team Adelaide. So do you want to have a really great coherent team working out John McDougall Stewart, or do you want to find you have to fire people for being too lazy? You're going to go with B? Okay, let's see how we go. Yes, indeed. Stewart actually had to have 6 attempts to get across the interior of Australia. And he got a little bit further each time. And it's often said the only time he was sober was when he was out in the desert. And he had a huge series of accidents. as he went. Every time he got carried back by his team injured, and having a very big support team is very important to him because he had so many accidents, and he fired several of his members for being too lazy in his terms. Okay, he did get a little bit further each time he went on though. The fight. Team Melbourne, you decide to take camels with you. So what would be the wise call? Get camels already living in the desert, or go and get camels from a circus? What would be the wise call, you think? You're going to go B? Yes, indeed, they got that right. Robert O'Hara Byrne decided to get some camels, couldn't find any, so he went and talked to a circus and bought some camels. Now, one of the camels actually didn't even work in a circus, he worked in a pantomime. He'd come on the stage, and that was his only experience of cameleering. Another cantankerous and didn't work out as well as Byrne thought. The British weren't to be deterred. They said, let's give it a second go. The first one was just practice, sure. So James Stirling. And those who are here for my talk about Perth might remember James Stirling was the first governor of the Swan River. And he was famous because he hyped it up. He went there and he said, the Swan River's the best country in the world, mate. Mate, the best country. And the people showed up and said, there's mosquitoes and sand here. It's not quite as well talked up as he said. So he came up to the north and he did the same again. Best country in the world, mate, you've got to come up here. Asian trade opportunities, Malay tree tank fishermen. So he hyped up Fort Wellington as well. Fort Wellington was over here, not on an island, but on the mainland, over here. How did he do? There's a sketch of Fort Wellington, little path in, a stockade built around it. Funnily enough, the stockade is around the watchtower and the huts are on the outside of the stockade. That might give you some insights into Mr. Stirling and his planning abilities. So, native hostility, yep. Sickness, fever, scurvy even, very high. Fail. So, does that save them from drowning? Or does it wash them away in the waves because they're too buoyant?
We think maybe they washed away in the waves being too buoyant.
Ooh, you sure? Let's have a look and see.
We're not sure.
Oh, there she goes. Yes, unfortunately, the life preservers proved too buoyant. The women can't, when the waves come on, it just carries them off the side of the ship. So, with that, I want to say thank you very much for attending the presentation. I wish you all a very safe and wonderful cruise. I hope you're all having as much fun on the Mast Arm as I am.